All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we are going on a really fascinating evolutionary journey. We're going to start way down in the trenches with heavy, chaotic physical servers. You know the kind, the massive racks of metal, the tangled wires, the incredibly loud cooling fans. And from there, we are going to travel all the way up into the weightless, invisible, and just incredibly clean future of cloud computing. If you have ever struggled to explain cloud architecture to non-technical stakeholders, well, you are in exactly the right place. By the time we wrap up, you're going to have a crystal clear mental model of exactly how the modern digital world operates. So here's a challenge for you. Can you explain the cloud to someone completely non-technical in 60 seconds? If you can't, don't worry about it. We constantly throw around acronyms like IaaS and PaaS, which makes it sound like absolute magic to anyone looking in from the outside. But beneath all that heavy industry jargon, it literally boils down to just one ridiculously simple question, dialed to different levels. And that is, how much of the technology do you want to manage yourself versus how much do you want someone else to manage for you? The absolute crucial point to understand is this. Cloud computing is simply renting computing power over the internet, instead of buying and running your own physical machines. That is the entire core of it. You're accessing on-demand resources from global data centers, and you are just paying as you go. Everything else we are going to talk about today is simply a matter of how much of that technology stack you choose to hand off to the person you're renting from. It is the ultimate shift from owning heavy, depreciating physical assets to renting weightless digital power. Layer 1, the physical foundation, also known as IaaS. When we talk about IaaS, infrastructure as a service, I want you to picture the heavy lifting of massive, chaotic server rooms. You're renting the raw physical building blocks here, things like virtual machines, storage, networking, and databases. It is exactly like leasing an empty apartment. You sign the lease, and the landlord gives you the physical space, the electricity, and the water. But you have to bring absolutely everything else. You bring the furniture, you paint the walls, you set up the Wi-Fi. You get the foundation for sure, but the heavy lifting of actually making it functional, that is entirely on your shoulders. In practice, because you're essentially renting an empty digital apartment, your responsibilities are pretty vast. You're the one who has to choose and install the operating system. You install the software, you handle all those tedious patches and updates, and you are entirely responsible for managing the security. Now, this layer gives you the absolute maximum amount of control over your environment, which is great, but in exchange, it demands the maximum amount of responsibility from you. You are still very, very close to the metal here. Layer 2, moving into PaaS and SaaS. Now, I want you to imagine those heavy physical servers literally dissolving into glowing packets of data as we ascend to PaaS, or Platform as a Service. We are officially leaving the hardware behind and focusing entirely on the software. If IaaS was an empty apartment, PaaS is a fully furnished apartment. You literally just move in and start living. In the cloud world, this means you just deploy your code. The platform itself handles all the underlying plumbing, the runtime, the databases, the servers. Tools like Heroku or a Google App Engine live right here. You get to focus entirely on building your application, not maintaining the infrastructure. And honestly, it leads to much faster development because you get to skip all that heavy infrastructure work entirely. And then we reach SaaS, Software as a Service. This is just like staying in a hotel. You just show up, swipe your keycard, and use the room. Someone else owns the building, cleans the sheets, and runs the electricity. SaaS is the layer of the cloud that absolutely everyone already uses daily without even thinking about it. These are ready-to-use apps delivered right through your browser on a subscription model with zero installation required. If you've checked Gmail today or logged into Notion or hopped on a Zoom call, you've used SaaS. You manage absolutely nothing. You simply consume the service. Layer 3, the invisible serverless future. To really understand on-demand execution, I want you to picture a silent, perfectly clean, neon-lit digital grid just waiting for a spark. Serverless operates entirely on triggers. Imagine glowing data flowing smoothly through that neon grid. Step 1, an event occurs. Maybe a user clicks a button on your website or they upload a photo. Step 2, instantly, a sudden burst of computing activity sparks to life. Your specific piece of code executes in an absolute flash. And then, Step 3, the exact moment the job is done, those resources immediately vanish right back into the invisible grid. It's purely event-driven. Your code only runs when it is explicitly triggered. The sheer magic of serverless really comes down to one number, $0 for idle time. Because those resources literally vanish the millisecond your code finishes executing, your idle cost is zero. Think about that. With traditional infrastructure, you're paying to keep those heavy physical servers running 24/7, even when absolutely no one is using your website at 3 in the morning. With serverless, you pay only for the exact milliseconds your code is actively running. If no one clicks the button, you pay nothing. It's a real game changer. Serverless, which is often called functions as a service, is the purest form of don't manage anything. It is entirely event-driven. It auto-scales instantly, whether you have one single user or 1 million users clicking that button at the exact same time. There are absolutely no servers for you to provision, no operating systems to patch, and literally no hardware to even think about. It strips away all the physical infrastructure and platform management until absolutely nothing remains except your pure code. Section 4, Control versus Convenience Trade-offs. So let's quickly summarize this outside-in journey we just took. Notice how the management responsibilities literally get stripped away step by step. On the outside edge, with IaaS, you manage everything: the infrastructure, platform, application, and data. Move one step inward to PaaS, and you only manage the application and the data. Move inward again to SaaS, and you manage nothing at all. You just use it. And finally, you drop right into the center with serverless, and you manage nothing but your specific lines of code. You don't even manage the runtime environment it lives in. It all boils down to one golden rule. Every step inward trades control for convenience. You are actively choosing to give up decisions you'd honestly rather not make, like figuring out how to update a server's security firewall at midnight, in exchange for the speed and agility you'd much rather have. It is a deliberate, strategic swap of ultimate control for ultimate efficiency. So how do real organizations actually make this choice? Think of this as your ultimate architectural cheat sheet. If you need full control over a complex, legacy environment, you're going to choose IaaS. If your team wants to focus purely on writing application code without worrying about the infrastructure plumbing, you choose PaaS. If you need a ready-to-use tool for your employees with zero development time, you grab SaaS. And if you want event-driven execution with zero operational overhead, you absolutely go serverless. But the reality is, most modern organizations don't just pick one. They use all four simultaneously. They use SaaS for their email, PaaS to develop new apps, IaaS to host their old legacy systems, and serverless for quick event-driven functions. The true skill in modern tech isn't just knowing what these layers are. It's knowing exactly which layer each specific workload belongs on. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to reflect on. Take a good look at your own daily tech stack, your own projects, your own company. Which layer does most of your work live on today? Are you guys still doing the heavy lifting in an empty apartment, or are you sparking code into an invisible, weightless digital grid? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and keep exploring.